relationships this side of heaven inevitably lead to conflict. Therefore, an important part of discipleship is learning how to deal with conflict. On your green sheet at the table, each person should have a green sheet. If you need extras, come grab them. You'll see the 5 different styles of conflict according to the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument, which if you took the survey, that's what they used to decipher what kind of style of conflict resolution you tend to use. So it's important for us to understand that there are different ways of approaching conflict and how and why we tend to use one particular style over another. There are certain styles that are more helpful than others in particular circumstances, and the more we know, the better we can choose the right style for a particular conflict. So let's dive in. So avoiding. This is sidestepping the conflict without trying to satisfy anyone's concerns. This style demonstrates a low value of achieved needs and a low value of relationship. So some people, they just avoid conflict, or they withdraw when there's any sign of conflict. Maybe they are shy, or maybe they think it's just pointless to engage, or maybe they've been hurt too deeply. Avoiding doesn't enable either party to get what they want, and it disengages from the relationship. Some positive usages are, sometimes avoiding conflict can be a good short-term option. Like when one person is an external processor and the other is an internal processor. The internal processor may need to withdraw temporarily in order to gather their thoughts so that they can re-engage in a more healthy way. But in general, avoiding conflict isn't the best long-term option because most problems that are not confronted never get corrected. But let's be honest, there are indeed some relationships that are unsafe. When a relationship is physically, sexually, or emotionally abusive, sometimes the only thing that can be done is to avoid conflict as much as possible. And in those cases, you should get help from others. Don't be ashamed to get counseling. Sometimes the healthiest choice can be to disengage from a relationship for a certain period of time in order to protect yourself and to reset the dynamics of that relationship. Avoiding conflict does not necessarily mean avoiding that person, just being careful to avoid the known landmines. Potential dangers, as far as styles go, avoiding is the least desirable because it is low in achieved needs as well as low in relationship. Neither party gets what they want and the two parties are disengaged from each other. Secondly, problems that aren't addressed tend to fester and get worse. And finally, avoiding conflict keeps relationships superficial. In fact, in premarital counseling, we always say that if you haven't had a good fight, you're not ready to get married yet. If you don't have conflict, that means your relationship is not deep enough. Second style is competing, trying to satisfy your own concerns at another's expense. This demonstrates a high value of achieved needs, but a low value of relationships. Some people just want to win. They want to get their own way, no matter what, because they are convinced that they are right or know what is best. So positive usages, when there is a moral issue, sometimes we just have to take a stand for what is right, no matter what the personal cost. When there is a crisis, or when something needs to be decided urgently, this style can actually save lives. And sometimes people spend a portion of their lives avoiding conflict or accommodating to other people, and then they reach a point where they've just had it. And then they swing to the opposite extreme and determine to never be a doormat again. So swinging to the competitive style can actually be a necessary corrective, but hopefully not a terminal ending point. Potential dangers. The dangers of always competing is that you damage the relationship. People may respect your ability to get things done, but they may simply just dislike you as a person. Also, no human is always right. When you are wrong and you refuse to admit it, others will lose respect for you. People will avoid you, or they may try to undermine your decision. 3, accommodating. Trying to satisfy the other person's concerns at the expense of your own. This style demonstrates a low value of achieved needs, but a high value of relationships. Some people tend to yield to others. They give in to get along. It's more important to them that there be at least the veneer of peace. That's more important than getting their own way. Positive usages. Not every disagreement has to be fought. Ephesians 5:21 teaches us, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So sometimes yielding can be a sacrificial act of love. Also, when you realize that you are wrong, you absolutely should accommodate to the other person as much as is appropriate. If the issue is more important to the other person than it is to you, then yielding also makes sense because it preserves the relationship without costing you too much. Potential dangers, when you always accommodate to others, you can lose your own sense of identity, and you can end up feeling like or actually being a doormat. Others can take advantage of you. There are also people whose intents and actions are bad or evil, and it is dangerous to yield to them. Sometimes people need to be confronted, and those who have a tendency to accommodate may need to get help in order to stand up and fight for what is right. Sometimes people appear to be accommodating, but secretly they are resentful. Bitterness can fester and explode in unexpected ways. The fourth style is compromising, trying to find an acceptable solution that only partially satisfies both people's concerns. This style demonstrates a medium value of achieved needs and a medium value of relationships. We often think that compromise is the ideal, that we all need to give a little in order to get a little. Compromise strikes that middle ground. Now, positive usages in complex situations, compromise may be the best option. Not everyone will be fully satisfied, but there is agreement that each party has heard the other and have come to a workable solution. In many cases, as you discuss things, it may become clear that some of your initial objectives were wrong or misguided, and so you should let go of some of your desires and add on some of the other person's requests. But potential dangers. Sometimes in a compromise, both parties feel like they win, and that's great. But oftentimes, both parties feel like they lose. And this can lead to resentment, especially over time. And in a compromise, it's easy for each party to feel that they have given up more than the other person. And sometimes we compromise because it's just easier than working harder to find a resolution. So by compromising, we miss out on the benefits of true collaboration. And that's style number 5, collaborating. Trying to find a win-win solution that completely satisfies both people's concerns. This style demonstrates a high value of achieved needs and a high value of relationship. This takes the most work, but is the ideal because it gives both parties what they want while also strengthening the relationship. Positive usages, collaboration recognizes that we come together with differences to try to solve a common problem. When we respect each other's input and change our own presuppositions because of what we learn, we can come to a creative and loving solution. Collaboration is especially important when making a major decision or starting a major project. If both parties are fully on board with a shared plan, then it sets a positive and cooperative tone for how that plan will be implemented. As for potential dangers, not really many. It's just that collaboration takes time and trust. Sometimes it's not worth it to spend so much time on a particular conflict. And realistically, some issues are too complex for both parties to feel like they both win. In that case, trying to achieve a perfect solution may prevent you from making any decision at all. So that's the Speedy Gonzalez version of the overview of the different styles of conflict resolution. Now I'm going to give you a brief time of silent reflection to think about which style you tend to use and why. If you were able to take the conflict resolution survey this week, does the description of your style make more sense? And at the bottom of the page, you're asked to identify one particular relationship in which you employ one of the top 3 choices, whether it's avoiding, competing, or accommodating, and think about why you use those methods and what maybe you can change about that. And so I'll give you some 2 or 3 minutes of silence, and then group leaders, you can go ahead and start talking whenever your group is ready.